Here comes a new challenger!
Hello there everyone, and welcome back to Smash Analysis, a series in which I analyze Smash characters. Today's being Simon. Originally, I was recording Sonic 1 for going through Smash history, but the file got corrupted its entirety, and I'm angry about that. So, we're just going to be doing this instead. Alright, so, Simon, this will be a very quick one. And that is, why do the Belmonts feel so much weaker than other keep away characters? The weakest out of all the keep away characters. Now, when it comes to keep away characters, I like to put them in their own subsection of characters, right? Because usually you have, you know, your rushdowns, your zoners, your shotos, whatever, and then you have like your subsections in between those and stuff like that. For me, I consider, at least in Smash's case, because there are so many projectile zoners, that characters like Simon or Min Min here, I don't consider them keep away. Well, zoners, I consider them keep away characters, because unlike zoners who keep you away with projectiles, they keep you away with really long disjoints, if that makes any sense. So, with that being said, why does he feel so weak in comparison to other characters similar, such as Min Min, Byleth, or even the newly released Sephiroth? Why do Belmonts feel so weak? Well, before we get into what makes them feel so weak, let's talk about what they're really strong at, in a sense. First of all, they have a DP. A DP that doesn't really kill anytime soon, but a DP is still not bad at all to have. Because, hey, having any sort of invincibility during a move is great as is. So that blue you saw there, that was their invulnerability. Invulnerability, just as a reminder, is blue. Invincibility is, well, green. Alright, so there you go. What's the difference? Well, the difference being, invincibility, you get hit, but you don't take any damage, whereas in vulnerability, it just goes right through you. Now, when it comes to it, you can consider the whip, even though it's a disjoint, its own, well, invulnerable thing. It nullifies projectiles. That's sort of the main point of the whip, is that it kind of just goes through projectiles. That's nice. You know, that's great. What are some strengths? Well, his ledge trapping is really good. You know, he's got holy water, he's got the side B, got the axe, he got the F smash that he can angle. You know, that's not that bad, right? And plus this move is really good, right? You got pretty not bad aerials, right? Because they're long reaching and you can angle them, right? And you know, there's a tipper and a sour spot. You know, it is what it is. Plus, this projectile kind of cheats, since the cross just has so much more priority than other projectiles in the entire game. So throwing it like this and jumping over it is actually not that bad of an idea, because you essentially have a projectile that nothing can go through, which is incredible. That's incredible. So, you know, the Belmonts have some strength in them, right? Pretty fast moves, it seems, right? You know, you gotta get off me with jab. There's no way you're doing an out of shield nair, you know what I mean? I mean, it might catch them, but it's sometimes not really. The hitbox is pretty small, you know. You got this move. This move seems really good, right? Right? I'm starting to run out of good things to talk about these characters, and that's it. Okay, so let's talk about all the bad things about these characters. So first of all, let's talk about let's divide it into three main sections. First of all, hitboxes. In terms of hitboxes, these guys are not so great. A lot of the hitboxes that you'll know with Belmonts is that, you know, pretty long, right? Long hitboxes, that's sort of the point, right? Seems great and dandy like cotton candy. Well, it's not so great, in fact, and I'll tell you why. Their hitboxes literally aren't active at all, for maybe like 1 to 3 frames at best, which means that, you know, since there's no longer lasting hitbox, your opponent can just sort of rush in and get in pretty easily. You know, it's kind of annoying, isn't it? I mean, you have Min Min here, who not only has a frame for, well, jab, you could say, but it covers a pretty big space and is super active. And it cheats. I would know, I play the character. But Min Min has pretty active hitboxes all around, right? But what about jank hitboxes? Well, I don't know if I can show it here, but down tilt very janky hitbox, because that can happen. Saw that, guys? Min went right through. It's supposed to be a two-part move. That's what's supposed to happen. But sometimes if you're DIing in, which is sometimes bound to happen, or DIing a specific way, sometimes the second hit won't connect. Sometimes it will. It's very random when that happens, especially when you need it to connect. There's just sort of this weird gap in between the hits, and I don't get it. I really don't get it. So that's really odd when it comes to that move. Well, what about dash attack? Dash attack's not that bad, right? You know, I mean, I guess not. Let's talk about other things. So, like I mentioned, their hitboxes, not the best, because they're not active. Sure, they're long, but a long hitbox means nothing if it's not that great. In terms of damage output, sure, but the hitboxes themselves don't really matter if they barely last and they're so skinny that they can easily go right over the head of the opponent. The only way to reliably hit them is if you're up close, which is never a good thing. So when it comes to hitboxes, you'd think that'd be good, that they'd have long range, but if the move's not active, then what's the point? If that makes any sense, right? So we now have a situation where we don't have really long-lasting hitboxes. The most we have are moves like this, right? I guess down smash technically counts since it also hits from behind. Down tilt, I guess, and dash attack. You also have this, but this is completely useless. It has no range. It doesn't really hit under ledge, and it's just sort of funny. I know it's from Super Castlevania 4, and that's what just makes it funny. I know it shows up in other games, but that's not the point. So in terms of hitboxes, pretty janky. I mean, they've had to fix their hitboxes plenty of times, because sometimes they just don't work. As a matter of fact, I don't think I'll be able to show it here. However, this down air here, the hitbox, his foot, if we go in max zoom and we try to go super slow, try to go in the slowest motion here. If you look at his foot, how it extends really far out, you may know or may not know that the hitbox of his foot actually sticks out from the hitbox of the actual move, which means that characters with disjoints or characters that have invincible moves can pretty much hit Simon off of this move, which is supposed to be a good move, but it's kind of not at times. So that's nice and dandy. But hey, Sab, you could combo down there and up B, right? Especially at high percents. That's a lie. Even without reacting, if you were to DI any sort of away, you literally can't get nothing off of this move. You know, and sometimes you just won't get anything at higher percents. They literally have to DI in. That's the only way, or if you're above them. But even then, even if you were to do that, this move kind of sucks, because the up B, the actual up B, is if you know how to DI it, you won't die. Even at 160, I know, I've played with this character a bunch, and it is pain. Right? It is pain. Well, what about his other hitboxes? Well, this one's pretty good. This one's like one of the few good ones. This one too, I'd say. Though the hitbox doesn't actually cover the entire axe, but I don't really have an issue with that. My only main issue is just it can be an issue when ledge trapping, because sometimes you think you got them and you didn't. By the way, yes, the axes do go under the stage and through the stage, if you didn't know that already. The only other hitbox that we really do have to go over is down B, which on paper should be a good move, right? It's essentially PK fire, but you don't even need to hit the opponent. You just need it to hit the ground. In theory, this should be good. However, just note that if you shield the move, that can happen to you. You can use, as a Simon, you can use this to your advantage by grabbing it yourself if they decide to shield it. So in a sense, you do have the advantage, I guess. Right? I guess. And you can do things like this or something or whatever, right? You know, Simon has some combos. Something like that. That is plausible, and you can get that from holy water. In theory. And I'm going to talk about why in theory. Remember that I am only one person. So me being able to do things by myself is kind of hard. But essentially you can go for this setup. There you go, there it is. So you can go for that kill setup if you want to, but here's the problem. Holy water, very easy to SDI out of. Hey, it's not that hard. So, you know, this setup that you're going for that has a very linear hitbox and strict timing to go for, yeah, you could get it, but you could also fail, and that's not really going to work out for you now, is it? So, yes, Belmonts do have some setups that are really good. But just because they have really good setups doesn't mean they're easy setups. I mentioned this in my Marth video, how I feel that a lot of Marth's tipper kill confirms require the weirdest of setups with the most unconventional moves or the unconventional ways of getting into those kill setups. The same really applies to Simon. For instance, before these buffs and the Sephiroth patch, I believe, or in the Steve patch, they actually did kind of nerf Simon, because one of the two buffs was dash attack and up tilt having higher knockback when your opponent's at lower percent. What made the buff so bad is that before, since the opponent wasn't launched off that far, not only could you get 2 up tilts, but you could also bait out a air dodge if they, you know, air dodge. Because obviously you can get 2 hits, your opponent thinks they might try to escape the second one, and then they get hit with this into something crazy, right? That's nice, right? The air dodge, you get that, boom, nice 47, nice setup. What about from dash attack? Well, from dash attack, we have a funny little thing, where before, you could go for something like that. However, now that they send out farther, and that also means that they can easily jump out of instead of needing the air dodge, because before, you could go dash attack fair, and your opponent could panic air dodge knowing that this could happen, and so you could go for an F smash, and on some stages, that would kill ridiculously early, because you'd always get the tipper. Now you can't do that anymore. So lots of crazy good setups that the Belmonts had were now removed because of buffing these moves. Now, don't get me wrong, they did have legitimate buffs, like to up smash and down smash, and they do have other setups, especially at later percent. But again, from the most unconventional things. For instance, you can go, you could do this, and that would work. However, that's only from the start of the move. Do it any later, they won't get knocked down. So you have to not only be super up close, but time it just right. So that's fun. Again, having setups that don't really mean much of anything because they're not easy to pull off. That is an issue. You know, that is something that basically means that at higher percents, unless they're ledge trapping you, you're gonna have a hard time to kill. That's also not to mention the fact that they themselves are really easy to kill. Why is that? Well, let's look at the recovery we have here, right? So in terms of recovery moves, we only really have a couple. We have our up B. In the air, your side B will stall you, but only the one time. Because every other time, it won't really stall you. You also have your aerials, because they can tether onto the ledge. That's fair, fair, showed earlier, and up air. And that's about it. That's all you really have. Mind you, these Belmonts don't really have the greatest of air drift, especially when being knocked away. Let's use this bullet bill to launch ourselves, not to the blast zone, but a bit more, yeah. Okay, actually, they actually give you much more momentum than I. Alright, let's have Min F smash us then, shall we? And you'll see how well I can make it back to the stage. Let's see how close it is. I'm just gonna use my up B in this instance. So from that, not that bad. Alright, but from this instance, I barely make it. Alright. Hit me with that laser. And in this instance, I can't at all. Even if I were to be DIing up, my opponent can still, edge guard me. There's nothing I can really do. Because one of the main issues is that once you get in, Belmonts can't keep you out. If you're hitting them in the air, the best they have is this move. And especially if you're a sortie, this move isn't going to save the Belmonts because you can just hit them right off of it. So really, Belmonts don't really have a lot of break it off me tools, which was the second part I was getting to, the recovery. It is an issue, right? Sure, you have Tether, but Tether can't save you. Min Min has a Tether recovery. Well, why do people consider her top tier? It's because even though Tether recovery is easy to edge guard, she has the tools, you know, her tools, her kit is so overwhelmingly good that all the negatives seem meh in comparison. Belmonts have weak hitboxes, like ish hitboxes, with barely any active frames. They have good projectiles, sure, but most of the time you're just relying on lack of matchup experience when it comes to playing the Belmonts. Now, there is some good to be had, but ultimately, they have a lot of weaknesses that need to be addressed. Hitboxes, like I mentioned, shields is a big thing because, well, you might have noticed that your head's kind of invincible when you let go of shield. That's because one of the issues is Belmont's shield is pretty small compared to other characters. Now, here's the thing. Shield, no matter what, is always at 100%, no matter the character, right? It's just that the size doesn't matter. The size is only there to protect your character's hurt box. The thing is about Belmonts is that theirs is incredibly small. So after like 1 or 2 hits on your shield, you're pretty much forced to move your shield around in order not to get shield poked. Because at that point, you will most likely get shield poked, and then you're put in disadvantage, and then you struggle to recover. It also doesn't help that against certain matchups, they just completely dwindle. For instance, Steve. Steve pushes down blocks. Blocks are great, right? Well, not for Belmonts, because, as an example, and I can't really show it here, I don't think I can. Oh, there it is. Your whip doesn't go through walls, and if Steve's blocks are like, I believe it's like wood or stone, it just won't go through. Or maybe I'm misremembering that. But I know with dirt it does go through because it's weak enough. But essentially there'll be times where you're trying to hit someone like off stage, right? Maybe they're recovering here. If you don't grapple onto there, because you can hold down, or whatever the case may be, you know, if you try edge guarding them here, say you're here and they're recovering from inside battlefield, right? Your only real option is nair or up B. That's it. Can't really like jank them out with fair or whatever because, well, your hitbox kind of just doesn't exist at that point. There are other situations where I've seen that happen. It's just kind of hard to really show. Again, I'm only one person. Ah, man. Kind of sucks. So, we covered hitboxes, we covered recovery. So what's the third thing I really just want to talk about overall? Well, their projectiles, because that seems to be the best part about their kit, right? Well, as I mentioned earlier, this can be easily SDI out of. This you have to angle, sure, and it's pretty easy to dodge, in all honesty. This is pretty easy to dodge, it's just sort of annoying to deal with. And so is this. In theory, using all three at ledge, right, because that's what we're going to talk about, and my controller is being sticky, I don't know why. Gotta clean my controller. So at ledge trapping, you know, because it isn't just projectiles, it's just ledge trapping. It's where he's at his strongest, right? The Belmonts are at the strongest when it comes to ledge trapping, because they're edge guarding, while decent. If they get hit trying to edge guard you, they lose their stock free, so they mainly rely on this. The problem is that eventually you will leave an opening for your opponent, because you can't just make them not. You can't condition your opponent to do certain options all the time. There's going to be a pattern to how you do things, and eventually your pattern is just going to get read, your opponent gets in, now you're forced to play neutral again, in which you're going to have to suffer and struggle and try your best at beating your opponent. Obviously, online, character's annoying. I say to you that just because a character is played offline and is annoying online, that doesn't mean that the character is good. An annoying character on Wi-Fi does not make a good character offline. I just want to make that perfectly clear. Right? I just want to make that perfectly clear for people who think I'm crazy to want to see these characters buffed. I want to see more action of the Belmonts. I think they're sick, but you won't ever see it because the characters suck. So, here's hoping they get some decent buffs, right? At least that's all I can hope for. Yeah, ledge trapping's great, sure, but you can't always rely on it. You can't just rely on the same strategy over and over again. Conditioning your opponent is great, but eventually it's just gonna have to be a part where it's all read on your end. Meanwhile, you have Min Min here. Min Min sees you trying to get back on stage. You know, extended hitboxes that you don't have to be super close to. Really good at two-framing the opponent. You know, like really good. Belmonts, they have to rely on this holy water angle, specific part where if they get one part of the ledge specifically, the holy water will fall. There, like that. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. You have to be at a very specific spot for that to work. Now, and for those wondering, the only difference between Simon and Richter is holy water. All this means is that Simon can blow up bombs with his and Richter's doesn't, and Richter's also stops red Pikmin while Simon's doesn't. Basically, on certain matchups, maybe you want to have some setups where you blow up the grenades on like Snake's face or whatever, right? And, you know, Richter's obviously better against Olimar, that sense, but that's about it. That's really it. Min Min, Sephiroth, even Byleth, in a sense, just do what they do in terms of conditioning, keeping distance, and still being able to recover, because at least Min Min can stall, and stalls much better in the air, because you actually have a move that can defend you while Holy Cross kind of defends you. This one's a, you know, this is a whole smash attack, right? I mean, this is too. So, moral of the story is, buff Belmonts. I know a lot of people may not like the idea of buffing these characters, but I think they deserve it. At least buff some of the things that were meant to be really strong, because like this is supposed to stop projectiles, but it's really not that great at stopping projectiles. Ryu and Ken's Tatsumaki is better at stopping projectiles, and it's their body, not a whip. So this could definitely get touched up a little bit, because even against a character like Mega Man, who in theory, you know, stop all the projectiles, Mega Man can't use pellets, well, because of this super linear hitbox, you're gonna get hit a bunch. And that's unfortunate. So with that all being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully, like I mentioned, they buff these characters, or they don't. Not my prerogative. I main Ryu and Ken. I tried playing Belmonts, but it is what it is. And I hope to see you guys in another video. Take care, be safe, and let's try getting to 1,000 subscribers. See you next time. Peace!
Coming through, partner, we can do this right. You're the fire, I'm the wind tonight. Burning dread, haha, that's right.